Nicole Hisatomi, escorted by Assemblymember Mark Stone. Obai Rambo, escorted by Assemblymember Weber. Hannah Ackley, escorted by Assemblymember Wilk.
Members, we have guests who are present for our special ceremony in the Assembly today. Proud to introduce, in the rear of the chamber, from the Center for California Studies, Steve Boilard, as well as Pam Chu, the Assembly Fellowship Director. Thank you both. And Mr. Boilard is the Executive Director of the program. We also welcome the parents, family, and friends of the Fellows who are seated in the gallery. There will be a reception in honor of the Fellows in the Rules Committee patio that will begin immediately. As the Fellows exit the chamber, let's give them another round of applause. On behalf of Speaker Tony G. Atkins, we thank the program participants and the members for their attention. This concludes our ceremony. Members, we are going to return to the regular order of business. Business on the daily file. Second reading. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 212, 562, 533 with amendments, 367 with amendments, 388 with amendments, 613 with amendments, 379 with amendments, 311 with amendments, 13 with amendments, 798 with amendments, 308 with amendments, and 475 with amendments.
Members, we're going to move to concurrence items on the file. We are beginning with file item number 13. That is AB 143. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 143 by Assemblymember Wood, an act relating to food facilities.
Mr. Wood, you may open.
Mr. Chair and members, AB 143 would allow wineries to serve prepackaged, non-potentially hazardous foods in tasting rooms without having to obtain a retail food permit. Senate amendments clarify that consumers are allowed to take the jam and olive oil home rather than having to eat the whole jar or drink the whole bottle. The bill is non-controversial, has received bipartisan support. I respectfully ask for your aye vote for concurrence of the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 76, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 14, that's AB 417. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 417 by Assemblymember Daly, an Act relating to forest practices.
Mr. Daly, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 417 is back for concurrence from Senate amendments. The minutes were taken are technical and clarifying in nature. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 75, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 15 is passed to retain. Moving to file item number 16, that's AB 632. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 632 by Assemblymember Eggman, an Act relating to business.
Dr. Eggman, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Member, this bill is back on concurrence from the Senate. It allows for the use of cameras and or computer software to verify the identity of people handling recyclable handheld devices and give secondhand dealers up to 10 working days after receiving a handheld electric device to update to report to the law enforcement. There is no opposition. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 78, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 17, AB 705. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 705 by Assemblymember Eggman, an Act relating to psychologists.
Dr. Eggman, you may again open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 705 is back on concurrence. It's a consumer protection bill that requires those practicing psychology in public settings to become licensed within 5 years of employment, as is required for those in private settings. Senate amendments clarify that the 5-year countdown begins for existing employees as of January 1st. There is no opposition, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 78, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Moving to the final item on concurrence. That's final item 19. That's ACR 4. The clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 4 by Assemblymember Waldron, relative to the Joel Mendenhall Memorial Highway.
Ms. Waldron, you may open on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. ACR 4 honors the memory of California rancher Joel Mendenhall by designating a portion of State Highway Route 76 in the county of San Diego as the Joel Mendenhall Memorial Highway. Mendenhall's family history dates back to the mid-1800s as homesteaders of Palomar Mountain. Permission to use a prop, Mr. Speaker?
Without
I just
objection.
wanted to hold up this photo of Joel Mendenhall. As you can see, he was a young man. Mendenhall was a successful California rancher and owner of homegrown cattle company in Palomar Mountain, raising natural grass-fed beef. He exemplified the true spirit of a California rancher through his work to raise wholesome and safe food for his local community. His strong work ethic is recognized by his desire to always do what is right, help others whenever he was asked, being a role model to youth and his family, and his commitment to provide the highest level of care to his animals and the land. In fact, his company is recognized both as American grass-fed and animal welfare certified. Joel Mendenhall was just 30 years old when he tragically passed away in 2013 in an equipment accident. He is survived by his wife, Jenna, 3 daughters, and his parents, Frank and Janice Mendenhall, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Seeing no additional discussion or debate on this item. Ms. Waldron, I'm sorry I missed it. Would you like co-authors, Ms. Waldron? Oh, no. My apologies, Ms. Waldron. We're going to take a roll call vote on this item as it is fiscal. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally vote. Ayes 77, no 0. Resolution is adopted. Members, we are going to move back to guest introduction. Our remaining guests have arrived with us today in the Assembly. First, I'm going to go to Mr. Jones Sawyer. You are recognized for your guest introduction.
Mr. Speaker and members, I would like to introduce Phil Washington, the new CEO of Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, otherwise known as LA Metro. In his position as Metro CEO, Mr. Washington oversees an agency that transports 1.4 million boarding passengers on an average weekday, riding on a fleet of 2,000 clean air buses and 6 rail lines. For the past 6 years, Mr. Washington was general manager and CEO of the Denver's Regional Transportation District, RTD. In Denver, Washington implemented the Fast Track program, one of the largest voter-approved transit expansion programs in the country. He was responsible for a total budget appropriation of $2.8 billion and managed more than $5 billion in active transit expansion projects. Under his management, Denver's West Line Rail was completed under budget and 8 months earlier than scheduled, and the award-winning Denver Union Station was completed 5 months ahead of schedule. Originally from the south side of Chicago, the Chicago housing project of Elgin Gardens, Washington is a 24-year veteran of the United States Army, where he held the rank of Command Sergeant Major, the highest non-commissioned officer rank an enlisted person can achieve. Please welcome Mr. Phil Washington.
Members, if we could have your attention, we have additional special guests. Mr. Ridley Thomas, you are recognized for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise to present to some and introduce to others a former member of the legislature, the Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas. Mr. Ridley Thomas serves Mr. Ridley Thomas serves as a member of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, was recently elected chair of the board of the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, known as Metro. He is a Los Angeles native where he was raised and pursued his education, earning the master's and doctorate degrees. He's an educator by background, having taught high school at Immaculate Heart, adult education, and literacy at Fairfax High School and college at Claremont. He began his public leadership work as the executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference at the age of 26 and has served as a change agent for inclusion and peace over a decade in that role. First elected to the Los Angeles City Council some 24 years ago, Ridley Thomas has made the work of public service his passion. He founded the community engagement model in Los Angeles, known as the Neighborhood Council Movement, is a champion for smart growth, the middle class, working people, the indigent, for inclusion, healthy families, expanded opportunities, and coalition politics. Ridley Thomas's work continues, and greater things are ahead as he leads the Metro Board, serves on the Charles R. Drew University School of Medicine Board of Counselors, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, the Los Angeles Coliseum Commission, and the University of Southern California's Keck School of Medicine, as well as the Board of Supervisors. He's a superb leader for Southern California and our state. He's a beloved father and devoted husband to Sinclair, myself, and my mother Avis. Please join me in recognizing the Honorable Mark Ridley Thomas as he returns to the Capitol on the occasion of his visit with Metro CEO Philip Washington. And before you applaud, I would add that in addition to myself, you all may know that the supervisors helped spawn the public service careers of many in our work, including the honorable gentleman from Silver Lake, Mr. Gatto. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you for joining me and recognizing me.
Members, we have one final guest introduction today. Mr. Calderon, you are recognized from Mr. O'Donnell's desk for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. If I could please have your attention for my guest.
Members.
Today, I would like you to join with me and the chairman of the Joint Committee on Arts, Senator Allen, as we recognize Juan Felipe Herrera's latest achievement in a stellar career, being named as our nation's poet laureate, the first Hispanic American to receive this honor. Juan Herrera is a native son of California, a leading voice regarding the Mexican-American and indigenous experience, and esteemed poet once called the elder statesman on Mexican-American poetry by former NEA chairman Dana Gioia, who also said of Herrera, he can write traditional poems for the page, but many of his poems are designed primarily for spoken delivery. His work is performative and communal. In this sense, Herrera speaks powerfully to younger poets and audiences, which has served him well in his career as an educator and an inspiration to a generation. In 2012, Herrera was named California's Poet Laureate, an office he served with distinction and creativity. He won the Hungry Mind Award of Distinction, the Focal Award, 2 Latino Hall of Fame Poetry Awards, and a Penn West Poetry Award. His honors include the UC Berkeley Regents Fellowship, as well as fellowship from the National Endowment of the Arts, the Bread Load Writers Conference, and the Stanford Chicano Fellows. I believe it is worth noting and emphasizing, given the recent successful battle for increased funding of the California Arts Council, which I'm proud to say the Assembly championed, that Mr. Herrera has also received several grants from the California Arts Council. National Librarian of Congress James H. Billington shared the following as he announced the appointment of Juan Felipe Herrera as the library's 21st Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry. I see in Herrera's poems the work of an American original, work that takes the sublimity and largesse of leaves of grass and expands upon it. His poems engage in a serious sense of play and language and in image that I feel gives them enduring power. I see how they champion voices, traditions, and histories, as well as a cultural perspective, which is a vital part of our larger American identity. The son of migrant workers, Herrera has come a long way from the Central Valley town of Fowler and was educated at UCLA and Stanford University, and he earned his MFA from the University of Iowa Writers Workshop. Yet he has never lost the sense of being part of the immigrant experience growing up in the Central Valley. I would like to close by reading from the poem, Let Me Tell You What a Poem Brings. Permission to read, Mr. Speaker?
Without objection.
Before you go further, let me tell you what a poem brings. First, you must know the secret. There is no poem. To speak of, it is a way to attain life without boundaries. I would just like to say congratulations and thank Mr. Herrera. Please accept this resolution as a symbol of our appreciation for all that you have brought to our state and now our nation, for giving us the gift of your talent and a vision of life without boundaries.
Members, we are going to move back to the file. There is business pending in the Assembly. File items 20 through 27, pass and retain. We are moving to file item number 28 on Senate third reading. That's SB 14. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 14 by Senator Lara and others, an act relating to civil actions.
Mr. Stone, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, on behalf of Senator Lara, I rise to present SB 14, which closes some loopholes to further protect child victims of sexual abuse by not allowing an abuser who is in a position of authority to raise the defense that the child actually consented to the sexual abuse. And it prevents an abuser from raising the child's sexual history as part of their defense. It's a great bill that protects child victims of sexual predators and sexual abuse, and I request your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 75, no 0. Measure passes. File item 29, pass and retain. Moving to file item 30, that's SB 176. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 176 by Senator Mitchell and others, an act relating to crimes.
Mr. Lackey, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Today I present Senate Bill 176. It's a bill which will help protect minors who serve as witnesses of crimes from being re-victimized unnecessarily during criminal proceedings. Under current law, a minor who is a victim of a violent or sexual crime can testify in court via closed-circuit television. Current law allows the minor victim, without being subjected, to be in the same room as the accused perpetrator. A person who may have caused severe physical mental distress to the minor. Senate Bill 176 would expand upon that law by protecting minor witnesses of a violent or sexual crime by allowing them to also testify on closed-circuit television with a judge's permission. This legislation was inspired by a court case from Fresno, where a child who witnessed her father being murdered in front of her was forced to take the stand face-to-face against the man who murdered her father. A courtroom should not be the place where a child is forced to face a defendant and relive a traumatic experience. Goodness, I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Lackey. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 75, no 0. Measure passes. File items 31 through 49, pass and retain. We are moving to the consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second-day consent calendar.
Senate Bill 738 by Senator Huff and others, an act relating to people health.
The clerk will open the roll on the second-day consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 76, no 0. Consent calendar is adopted. Members, we are moving to announcements and adjournments in memory. I have one brief announcement. Members, there will be a reception for Consul General Garcia Williams in room 211 at 1:15 p.m. Shortly upon adjournment of session, there's a reception for Consul General Garcia Williams in room 211 at 1:15. The following members were granted prior permission to speak on an adjournment in memory. Mr. Eduardo Garcia, you are recognized for your adjournment in memory.
Members, I rise to honor the distinguished life of Danny Villanueva, who was born in Tucumcari, New Mexico, but raised in the border town of Calexico, California. Danny attended Calexico's public schools, a proud Calexico High School Bulldog. He was a good student, some of his peers say, but the majority of his peers tell us that he was a better athlete, having earned him all Imperial Valley honors in football and basketball, also getting him an All-American recognition. Danny pursued higher education, enrolling into Cal Poly, ultimately finishing his education at New Mexico State University on a football scholarship. I may note that Danny played for the New Mexico teams that won back-to-back Sun Bowl championships in 1959 and 60. Ever since those years, they've not gone back to a postseason game. He was a national leader as a place kicker on the field and was actually drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, where he set kicking records that lasted more than 40 years. He ended his career with the Dallas Cowboys, but he was most known as the first and one of the only Latino kickers at that time. His nickname was El Quicador. El Quicador. And when he walked on to the football field, bullfighting music went on. After he retired at the age of 29 from the NFL, Villanueva co-founded Special International Communications Corporation, which later became Univision, where he was the co-founder. He served in numerous top posts during the 25-year career there, and selling broadcast properties around the country, and built KMX TV Los Angeles and Univision into one of the most profitable and influential Spanish-language stations in the United States. Danny will be missed by his family and many friends, but his remarkable achievements in sports, his pioneering contributions to rise of the Spanish-language broadcasting media will never be forgotten. As a representative of Calexico, California, it is an honor to be able to adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Ms. Gonzalez, you are recognized.
Members, I rise today to ask that we adjourn in the memory of the late Collins Lee Peoples. Mr. People was born on May 11th, 1920 in Saline, Louisiana. And although he was proud of his Louisiana roots, he saw promise out west and moved to San Diego, where he would marry his wife, May D. Peoples, and he would eventually find lasting work in the construction industry. He belonged to the Southern California Labor's District Council, Local 89, for well over 40 years. Collins and Mays raised 2 daughters and a son in Barrio Logan, where they had also attended Calvary Baptist Church. He continued to live and worship in South San Diego until his passing at the age of 95 on June the 20th. He is survived by 3 children, and I ask that we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Olson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'd like to adjourn in the memory of Leonard Mendonca, a lifelong resident and community leader of Turlock, who passed away on June 24th. Leonard was born in Modesto and later moved east of Turlock, where he and his wife Iris raised their family on their dairy farm. He served his country in the U.S. Navy as an electronics technician and was the DJ on board the destroyer USS McKeon. He loved music, ham radio, dancing, and sports. He was an outstanding fast-pitch softball pitcher, an avid Oakland A's, Oakland Raiders, and Golden State Warriors fan. He was very proud to have both a son and a grandson both play professional baseball. Leonard was actively involved in the community. He was a former commander of American Legion, Rex Ish Post number 88, Turlock Little League board member, 4-H electronics leader, and past state president of the Grade B Milk Manufacturing Board. He served as a fire commissioner for Denair Fire Department for 30 years and helped set up the Denair Sheriff Substation. Leonard had a love for baseball and was a skilled announcer. Over the last 50 years, he announced Turlock Little League, Turlock Senior League, American Legion, and Turlock High School baseball games. He enjoyed announcing the Turlock Christmas Parade and voluntarily set up his PA system for the Memorial Day services at Turlock Cemetery every year. Leonard and Iris enjoyed dancing and regularly attended and helped teach dance classes at Turlock Adult School. His devotion to his wife was evident as he faithfully spent each day with Iris at her rest home. A loving husband, dad, and grandpa, Leonard is survived by his wife Iris, his 4 children, Lenny, Ray, Lucille, and Rob, and their spouses. Many of you may know his son, Lenny Mendonca, who is active in leading reform efforts with a number of different groups that we all interact with, Children Now, California Forward, and others. Leonard also leaves behind many grandchildren and nieces and nephews. He was preceded in death by his children William, Elizabeth, Michael, Teresa, and Philip. Members, I ask that you adjourn in memory of Leonard Mendonca.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Mr. Gordon, you are also recognized.
Thank you. I rise to join my colleague in asking that we adjourn in memory of Leonard Mendonca. I did not know Leonard, but I know his son Lenny, who I consider to be a great friend. And I know that, given the quality of my friend Lenny Mendonca, that his father must have been a truly outstanding man. Lenny is a leader in our state, as has been mentioned, both in terms of California Forward and other activities, and also is the proud founder and owner of the Half Moon Bay Brewery in my district. So on behalf of the family, I ask that we all adjourn in memory and keep them in our thoughts and our prayers.
Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Excuse me, Dr. Eggman, you are also recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'd also like to rise in honor of Mr. Mendonca as someone who attended and graduated from Turlock High School and played a lot of softball with Lenny. I always remembered Mr. Mendonca as a dignified, respectful person, and kindness just seemed to ooze out of him. He had a spirit and an energy, I think, that touched many people. We all became very familiar with his voice over announcing many things throughout our life. The family had a dairy and come from the kind of Portuguese dairy family stock that really defines a lot of the Central Valley area. So I join in asking us to adjourn in his memory of this very kind, good, patriotic, lovely man.
Members, please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. All requests to adjourn in memory will be deemed read and printed in the journal. The session schedule is as follows. Tuesday, July 7th, check-in session. Wednesday, July 8th, check-in session. Thursday, July 9th, floor session at 9 a.m. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Seeing and hearing no further business, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Holden moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Thursday, July 9th at 9 a.m. Quorum call is lifted.